Hello, this is Gary. This week we were to look at a couple of pamphlets, one from the Kapoor Foundation and one from the U.S. Department of um, Educational Technology, dealing with the use of AI. The Kapoor Foundation was largely concerned with values and principles and ethics. I found a little presumptive on their part for them to tell me what they thought was ethical because I may not agree. And these things are not really settled questions. But let's talk about what they said. They said it's important to look at who develops and who benefits. Honestly, I don't care who benefits. I really don't care. I do care if they're misusing my data. I do care if they're using my data to hack into my systems. If they're doing like a Trojan horse type thing where they say, "Hey, give us this code and we'll help you fix it, whatever you want to do." And then I find out, well, they're really copying my code and figuring out vulnerabilities in my system to hack me. That is something we should be concerned about. But in terms of somebody being able to make money from this, well, I hope so. I mean, if people don't make money, they're not going to keep developing things. You know, should I only go to doctors that are nonprofit? I mean, I don't think it makes sense. I'm still a capitalist. I don't believe that making money is somehow dirty. Ethics, privacy, and safety, I care about those things. I care about the impact on society. But at the same time, I don't think that the AI is responsible necessarily for the bias that already exists in society. It really just amplifies what's already there. So that's what we should be looking at. Misuse, exploitation, safety concerns, pretty much that I care about that. Collection, usage, analysis, ethical creation, and individuals' collective right to refusal. This really, to me, is the rub. What they're saying is that you ought to have permission from Ray Bradbury, for example, before you read Fahrenheit 451 and use it to train the AI. Except I can go in the library and I can check out any book I want and I can read it. I don't have to pay an extra royalty just for having read the book and then I return it. The royalty was paid when the book was bought. So that's really the issue here to me. It shouldn't be any different whether I read the book or whether the AI reads the book, as long as they're not retaining the information and replicating the information. Simply writing in the style of Ray Bradbury is not a violation of copyright. It's not a violation if I do it, and it's not a violation if I do it through an AI. That's my opinion. Emphasis of humans in the loop. So, this is what the US Department of Education Technology wants us to be concerned about. They're concerned that we not replace teachers with AI. Well, of course, we're not going to do that. What I think, a lot of things they talked about there was keeping the human element in making these decisions. Now, in the sense that you don't hand decision making power over to the AI in the exclusion of human beings. Well, you shouldn't do that anyway. You could have teachers doing that with Canvas. You could have teachers doing that with a grade book, a paper grade book, where okay, I've got my rules. You got to obey the rules, and they don't take into account that well maybe the student has really evolved and developed and where they were in their head when they took the first midterm is not where they're at when they took the final. And if you average the midterm and the final and say, okay, you flunked your midterm, but you got an A in the final, therefore we're giving you a C in the class, that might not be really an accurate estimation of how much the student has learned and how much they know, and whether or not they've actually developed competency. So having the discretion to make those decisions, it's really no different from whether or not it's a grade book or if it's AI. Of course, you should be able to make changes rather than simply be just stuck by the rules. Prioritize strengthening trust, prioritize, inform and involve educators. Yeah, a lot of educators need to be informed. A lot of people, they've watched too much science fiction and they've got a wrong idea of what these things are. And on the other hand, people are just afraid of them. They think, well, it's like magic. You just put something in and magically it comes out. And it does seem like magic, honestly. It's pretty amazing what AIs are able to do these days. Focus on R&D on addressing context and enhancing trust and develop education-specific guidelines and guardrails. I I think that's probably fine. What I think is really very helpful is something like the ALEX system for mathematics, where they've mapped out just thousands and thousands of pathways that a student might make in having different competencies, different components of different competencies, and how you help the student get from one point to another. And then they adjust and adapt based on every single interaction with the student. Most of the AI or so-called AI learning tools are not that intelligent. They kind of stick you down a path, and that's where you're going. They don't have that kind of interaction that Alex has. But that is going to be the future, and I think that that's really pretty the most exciting use of AI. Other things I like to use AI for, AI is great for generating questions and for evaluating work in terms of the student getting some self-evaluation. Now, I still agree or disagree with AI, right? I have turned my resume into Chat GPT and said, please critique this for me. And I got it back like, okay, well, I agree with some of that. And so I'll make some changes. Then I send it, we'll critique it again. Okay, I really think that this is overboard. I'm not going to keep doing these things. And at some point I stop. I decide that I have done what I thought was necessary, and I live with those consequences. Um, but as a teacher, I have used AI for helping me develop problem sets. Like, here's some concepts. Can you give me some multiple choice questions? Can you generate some multiple choice questions out of this knowledge? Or can you, I'm going to take some problem that I developed. I've got a problem that has a bunch of calculations, and here's the answers. And now I'm going to change all the numbers, and I need to know what the new answers are. Or I want someone to double check my work. I've already calculated what the new answer should be, but I want to make sure that I'm right. And I submit that to the AI, and it's come back. And sometimes the AI is wrong. And so you've got to be smart enough to be able to recognize when you're getting a wrong answer. But if you're able to do that, it can be a pretty powerful tool. It's amazing that it's able to do as much as it can. People don't realize, I think, that ChatGPT and Pilot and Gemini and these others, they are large language models. They are models for holding a conversation with you. They're not telling you that they're experts in computer science or in medicine or in anything else. But when you have an AI which is trained on medical data, they can make some pretty phenomenal judgments. And in fact, in most of the tests that most of the reports that I've read, you actually get better diagnosis from a medical AI than you do from an actual doctor. But of course, we still rely on a doctor to look it over and make sure that it's not something wrong. Anyway, that is my take on it. I think it's a powerful tool. It is a tool. We do have to be concerned about some of these things. Um, but I'm not sure that I agree with what they consider ethical and what they consider unethical. That's my take. Thanks, I'm Gary.